Here we go. Yep. All right. Welcome, everyone, to a regularly scheduled board meeting of the Oceanside Unified School District Board of Education. This is a public hearing. We have, I think, a handful of speakers that wish to address the board, and we'll start with Ann calling out the first member who submitted. Ann?
Okay, we have 10 public comments on this item. The first speaker will be Lily Sanchez.
I will just remind for everyone that the time limit is 3 minutes, which I think you all know, and there's a clock that will start that, and you'll see it at the base of the screen there. And please address your comments to us. We're glad to hear them. Lily?
Lily, you're promoted to the panelist. You're free to speak.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Lily. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Sorry, I forgot to unmute.
That's all right. We've done that too.
So when I was listening to the presentation, there wasn't a clear answer as to what you're waiting for to open schools. And it kind of sounded at the end that y'all are monitoring the list. Excuse me, the monitoring list. I guess you're reviewing that to see if we come off of it for the 14 consecutive days. And so I'm concerned that the district might want to open as soon as we hit that benchmark. And I just wanted to comment on the safety of children. In the last meeting, it was stated that no one under the age of 17 has died of COVID in California. And that unfortunately has changed. As of Friday, the California Department of Public Health announced the death of a teenage child. And there have been 3,259 children who have tested positive in this county. And that's 10%, over 10% of all confirmed cases. 62 of those children were so sick that they were hospitalized. There's also, I don't know if anybody has heard of the MIS-C, which is the multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. This is a condition that can be serious and sometimes deadly. The CDC said that different body parts can become inflamed, including the heart, lungs, kidneys, brain, skin, eyes, or gastrointestinal organs. The CDC said that we do not yet know what causes MIS-C. However, we know that many children with MIS-C had the virus that causes COVID-19 or had been around someone with COVID-19. So just to clarify, these are children who might be mildly sick at first and then develop this syndrome. And there's also long-term effects, right? That most people have mild symptoms of COVID. We pretty much all know that. However, about 20% later become critically ill. This means that they experience cardiomyopathy, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and or neurological damage such as brain inflammation and stroke. And because the majority of people affected have been adults, the studies that focus on children are only just emerging right now. So we don't have enough data to say conclusively that children are going to be safe in a, even if it's a hybrid model. But one study did find that some children with COVID do develop serious heart damage. Again, this is not a majority of children, but you never know if it's going to be your child, right? And it's also very important to recognize that children are transmitters. Fox News reported on a coronavirus outbreak in Georgia. It was a camp back in June. There were 344 campers and staff that tested. 260 of those were positive, including 168 children. And as quoted in the article, the CDC stated that this case demonstrates efficient spread of the virus, quote, resulting in high attack rates among persons in all age groups, even with the use of recommended strategies to prevent.
I can't see time. Okay.
Sorry?
Thank you, Lily. time's up. I appreciate those comments. We'll take them on board. We appreciate that.
Thank
Next
you.
speaker,
Stephanie DeRochi.
Stephanie. No. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I just want to say I appreciate the plan that you guys have put together, and I can appreciate the opportunity to speak as well. I just wanted to throw out there just more some questions, honestly. I see the plan, but I feel like it's a little unrealistic, at least in my family. I mean, I have 4 children, all in 4 different grade levels. 2 of them are on IEPs. So I guess I'm just, where do I get more information on what do I do? Because working, I'm a full-time student. My husband's in the military. So I'm just curious, what do those families do? Also, with the special education services, so 2 of my kiddos, like I said, are on IEPs. My daughter's supposed to get 240 minutes a week in her classroom. Then she's supposed to have 30 minutes of counseling for 30 different sessions. And then she's also supposed to get 120 minutes weekly with aid in a class. My son, on the other hand, he gets speech services, 30 minutes, 55 times, and then special education, 120 minutes a week. During the distance learning, we really didn't get a lot of our services met, which was unfortunate because they're on the IEPs because they're already behind. So then when it comes to this online virtual learning, I just am curious, how does that improve? My one child who's he's going to be going in 1st grade. He was in kindergarten all year last year at Santa Margarita, and he fell behind. I mean, his teacher, who has a degree, was able to get him to learn 2 sight words out of 60. He can only count to so much. He's below average on reading, below average on writing. I, of course, am going to try as hard as I can, but I don't have a degree. So I'm wondering, what services are there for parents who have concerns? Also wondering, online sometimes doesn't always work, especially for those kids who have special needs. Is there paper form for parents? I don't know. Those are just my things that I'm throwing out there. Like I said, I can appreciate the plan that you guys have put together, and for someone who has maybe 1 child and stays home, it'll work perfect. But for someone who has 4 kids on 4 different levels, 2 have special needs and have IEPs, what do those families do?
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Your time's about up. We appreciate that. We'll take that on board. The meetings that are going to be announced here shortly will be on our websites. That the presentation noted next week with the principal is going to be your first place to start getting the detailed information. And we have our hearts go out with you to work through this with us. But we appreciate your comments. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, Joey Bercini.
Go ahead, Joe.
Joey, you there?
I am. Thank you.
Oh, great.
Great. I just wanted, can I get a thumbs up from the board members that you guys can all hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Perfect.
Trust
Okay.
me, we can.
Okay, good. You can start my clock. Reason I asked for the thumbs up on whether or not you can hear me is you probably all know my name. I've been asking for the last 6 weeks for a plan for parents. Stephanie, if you're still listening, I just want to let you know my heart goes out to you, and I wish the board had a better answer for you. So since I feel like my questions haven't really been answered via board meetings, town hall meetings, and emails, I'd like to at least spend the next 2 minutes and 24 seconds hearing from the board on what they think working parents should do in order to keep their jobs securely and maintain teaching kids at home.
I mean, Is that what you want to say, Joey? For your public input at this time? That's your question and that's your issue, and we'll take that on later on. All right.
Why are we going to take it on later on, though? I think this is the question that a lot of parents have been asking, and no one is answering the question. How am I supposed to keep my job when I have to manage a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old who's sitting next to me during my workday all day?
It's a challenge for society and the whole county right now that's in this position, and I can't solve that for you or have a debate for you right now on what your answer is, because I don't have it. Here's what we have to offer right now, Joey, as you understand, and it's not working for you. And all we can say is just move forward with that. Okay. Next speaker.
CC Haffey.
CC. That would be a better answer. You're right. My bad. I know. CC. Next speaker.
Karen Placencia.
Karen.
Go ahead, Karen.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Karen Placencia, and I am with the Human Rights Council of Oceanside, but also speaking on behalf of my family, my little sister, nieces, and nephews who attend OUSD. So, hold on really quick. So I just want to say that as HRCO and speaking on behalf of my family for our community, we are convinced that public schools should not resume in-person instruction until the time when that has been deemed safe by public health experts and the broader scientific community. We believe that reopening public schools must adhere to public health science, and we reject recent recommendations issued by the politicized Centers for Disease Control, who changed their earlier guidelines after the Trump administration intervened because Trump considered the initial guidelines as too rough or too tough and expensive. Today, as you all know, the pandemic is worse than it was in March and April. In particular, the pandemic is more devastating to brown working class families in our neighborhoods. We believe that human lives must be the only priority during this global health crisis, and any considerations that place economic gains and returning to normal life, quote unquote, on equal terms as public health must be denounced before any public schools can reopen safely, as public health prioritizing public health, is most important, and it requires immediate nationalization of health for everybody, and that's something that we believe our district during this time must call for, is healthcare for everybody. We need nationalization of COVID-19 rapid testing services to support opening of our schools. We value our teachers and their labor, and as workers, we have to promote that they have the right to a safe workplace that will not put them and their families in danger. OUSD must support our teachers and show that we value their lives. And we just want to say also that the Education Secretary's call to open schools is an attack and an assault on working class people. And it's also, giving funding to schools that open for in-person learning is a way to backtrack the privatization of public education. And it calls for funding private schools that reopen in the fall. And it's just insane to force people to attend in-person instruction during a global pandemic. And we have to take into account that OUSD has a majority of brown working class students who are, because we are from working class families that cannot stay home, that we are being impacted worse by this pandemic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate the comments. Next speaker.
Mark Nelson.
Mark, are you with us?
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can, Mark. Go ahead.
Just let me unmute my thing.
Yes.
Let's see.
We hear you fine.
Okay, here we
There
go.
you go. We see you.
Hi.
Welcome.
I've had the opportunity to speak with you, President Blessing, and I appreciate you taking my call. Actually, I was afraid you wouldn't because I think you know my position on this. It's interesting to hear the different. I'm going to depart from what I planned on saying word for word, because I feel really badly about the people that are scared about returning to the school and fear that it's putting the lives of their children in danger. I sympathize greatly with those who have children with special needs. I've been in touch with over 27 families that have children with special needs that have approached me about bringing a lawsuit to help them fulfill the needs of their IEPs that are not being met during this pandemic. And then I've got an equal number of kids that are families with kids in the mainstream. I just want to speak about my two children in particular. There are two boys, 12 and 13, turning 13 and 14 this year. Straight A students. The older boy was the Scholar Athlete of the Year last year and co-captain of the wrestling team this year. He was a National Junior Honor Society inductee last year, and my younger son would have been had he been allowed to complete the year and been graded on his classes. He was not inducted into that program was suspended due to the dropping of the grading. And my son, my older son, as he was cleaning out his locker, was told by his wrestling coach that he would have been, again, the Scholar Athlete of the Year had they graded. I'm sorry, I'm becoming a little emotional. But this pandemic has the closure of the schools physically. I do not believe is scientifically based. I disagree with the previous speakers that say that it is, and that it's. But I have seen the emotional, psychological, and educational deterioration of my sons right before my eyes. Their behavior has disintegrated. The lack of socialization with other kids and their teachers has greatly decreased their ability to deal with behavioral situations that they had no problem dealing with in the past. And I just think that opening our schools is the best thing for our children, and the needs of our children should be put at the highest priority. And I think it can be done safely for the teachers as well. And I'd just like to encourage all those listening to go to the website, openOurSchools.org. It's got excellent scientific information and ways to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. Next speaker, Ann.
Kevin McCarthy.
Kevin, are you with us? McCarthy? You promoted him? Great. Yeah.
Okay, Kevin, go ahead.
We'll get there.
Hello.
Hi, Kevin. We got you. Can you hear us?
Got me on a Zoom session.
We can hear you on the Zoom session. Go forward.
Yeah. All right. Well, why has the school board not proposed a realistic plan to have classroom education available for all students, and in particular K through 5? Let me explain what I mean by that. The last board meeting and in this board meeting, charts were displayed showing that the cost of in-classroom learning would be exorbitant, somewhere around 2 to 3 times the amount of regular classroom education. I'm wondering if that data was skewed by the assumptions predicating those projections, much like the original projections about the death rate in the US due to COVID-19, which predicted 2 to 2.5 million Americans would die. Just in this meeting, we were showing in-person, hybrid, and virtual learning. There's a serious flaw in these models. All parents would participate in it would find acceptable or whatever the school board is recommending. It is apparent to me that the school board neglected to collect meaningful input from parents as they did with their workshop groups. Talk to a sampling of parents, you'll find that parents, many parents feel that the in-classroom learning far outweighs the risk. A new plan should be drafted, taking into consideration that not all parents will send their kids back to classroom learning, which will reduce the requirements for the classroom learning environment. And considering the fact that the school board is required to submit a plan for the 2021 calendar year, and that there is no classroom or in-classroom plan for students to return back to their classrooms, then this would mean that the school board has in fact decided to conduct a virtual learning environment for the entire school year, completely disregarding the preference of parents and students. We need to conduct a survey to see how many parents in fact would send their kids to grades K through 5 and even higher grades. And if that survey returns an assessment that is over 50% who want to send their kids back to classroom education, then this should significantly affect the amount of classroom teacher resources required. The school board should immediately conduct a survey to determine which parents would send their kids back to classroom learning, and then direct the board to do a waiver, request a waiver. If you look at the data on parent-sponsored websites such as openschools.org, which has the latest county, Orange County, San Diego County, and California state data, it is clear that the school board and the county health department are ignoring vast quantities of data which show that school-age children are uniquely less impacted by the virus as proposed to recent influenza pandemics, where there were over 180 pediatric deaths, 200,000 pediatric hospitalizations. So if human life is your main concern, I want to ask parents, how many children are you willing to sacrifice to teenage suicide, domestic child abuse, or pedophiles who have been released by Gavin Newsom after he announced that 9 million children will be potentially at home alone?
Wrap it up, Kevin. Time's up. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next speaker.
Todd Madison.
Go ahead, Todd.
Hi, guys. Of course, I'm Todd Madison, parent of Oceanside Unified Kids, candidate for school board this fall. It's great to see the effort the district has put into developing its learning continuity plan. The effort the district has put into gathering parent input on those changes is tremendous. With that, the CDE says the LCP is supposed to discuss how student learning continuity will be addressed during the 2021 school year. But most of what we've seen relates to the distance learning portion of that school year, which we hope is the smaller part of the year. I think every parent and teacher out there, hope that our county will meet the governor's criteria for allowing in-person school as soon as possible. We'd like to have a plan ready for that allows for that in ways that meet the CDE guidelines to be safe for kids, teachers, and other staff. No one, and I repeat, no one, is asking that we return to in-person school until it can be done with a plan that's safe for everyone. We haven't seen that plan, however. That was requested by the majority of parents, a board member, and the LCP template says it's our first priority, but no real plan has been presented. Perhaps the guide we'll see at the end of this week may illuminate some of that. I don't think it would be fair to teachers or kids to not have a well thought through and safe plan in place when we get there. We know keeping our kids and teachers safe will require a lot of thought, discussion, and board approval. There'll be details to be worked out. There'll be budgetary issues. Choices will have to be made. We know that is going to result in a lot of contentious conversations everywhere. It's not going to happen quickly or easily. And again, we most certainly do not want to rush into this in a way that might result in plans that are not safe for kids or teachers. Our district has now had several months to put this together. It apparently now has $14.9 million to use to fund that plan. It would have been nice to have seen that tonight, but we didn't. When will they do what the parents have clearly asked for and present that plan? As always, any parents listening to this who want to be part of that conversation are welcome to join the Oceanside Parent Network on Facebook. Search for Oceanside Parents, join the group to discuss. We welcome that discussion from all sides. And I would also recommend, as someone earlier said, anyone interested in joining parents who feel our schools should be open safely as soon as possible should go to openOurSchools.org as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Todd. Next speaker.
Lemmy. I just have the first name.
Okay. Lemmy. Are you finding that, Greg, anywhere to promote to the speakers box? Doesn't appear that Lemmy's present. Okay, the last speaker is Isaiah. Isaiah Briggs, perhaps? No, Isaiah? Okay. Well, I'll close that portion of the public hearing and, sorry, oh, excuse me. Yeah, Isaiah.
Okay, go ahead.
Nice. I was getting worried for a second. Sorry, can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, we can. Go forward. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, no, I'm just, a concerned resident of Oceanside. I have people, loved ones here that are attending OUSD, and I would just like to reiterate that we need to take the approach that would 100% minimize risk as much as humanly possible. Let me see, just one moment. Yeah, just to take a step back and just see where we're at in the midst of this lethal pandemic. We've sustained 3 times as many casualties in approximately 4 to 5 months as the U.S. sustained in a decade of fighting in Vietnam. And, the coronavirus, like the conservative estimates, I've been doing some research, and my brother is a pediatrician in Philadelphia working at CHOP. And by conservative estimates, the literature is saying that this is 66 times more lethal than the flu. And while, children might not be symptomatically impacted, they can 100% be carriers and be transmitting this to the community because they're going home to their parents, to their grandparents. And I think that, it's pretty obvious that schools are the perfect petri dish for, even if we took a hybrid learning approach, I love kids, but you cannot trust them to be following guidelines to the T. And especially in times like these that we need to be making every single precaution to make sure that we are preserving life over everything. And my heart, goes out to all the working class people who are concerned, and I resonate with that struggle and want to be in solidarity with it. But at the end of the day, I feel like we need to prioritize the lives of our community members over any grades or accomplishments that might be achieved in this upcoming year. So yeah, I just feel like anything that wasn't the virtual approach would definitely be negligent and reckless and be putting our whole community at risk, and want to just say that for the record. And in terms of just reopening, I do agree that this needs to be something that is meticulously planned, like plan A, B, C, etc. We need to make sure that, the community is very involved in this entire process, make sure that all the voices are being heard. And it's awesome to kind of hear that you guys are already at work doing that and have done some work in understanding how to best address this issue. But, I'm just wondering, like, so many questions. What will trigger in-person teaching? When will it close? It's going to be, potential back and forth. Because I know, the New York Times reported the schools in Indiana, when they reopened, they had to shut down just hours into the first day. And, what is it? The superintendent said, and I quote, that they knew it was going to be a win, not an if. So it's just a matter of time until we have to go back. And I think having parents having to deal with that back and forth is going to be also detrimental to any flow of work and family life. So yeah, I just find it that we all agree as a community that virtual distancing is not ideal. There's better. This is not something that we want, but it's something that we need to do. And I just want to say, the U.S. has the highest number of cases with 4.7 million. And with California experiencing a resurgence, we need to be absolutely 100% on top of things if we're ever going to put our community at risk. So I appreciate you guys giving me that time.
Thank you, Isaiah. Appreciate your comments. And is that it then? We didn't find Lemmy anywhere, Greg? All right. Well, with that, I will close the public input portion of this hearing item and move it to any discussion or questions that the board members may have of staff, or any response or discussion points that staff wants to share as we move forward with this item. All right.
Thank you.
We will move to the next and let's move to the next and final item on the agenda, which is public comments on items not on this agenda. We've got, I don't know, 5 to 6 folks that signed up. There's probably still with us. So I'll turn that over to Ann to call out the public speakers. Again, these are for comments that are not on the agenda tonight, for items that were not on our agenda and are still, though, within the purview of the board. And there's a 3-minute clock that'll show up on the screen as you're presenting your comments to us. With that, Ann, first speaker.
Paula McNulty.
With the meeting.
Mark Nelson.
Mark Nelson is also with the meeting.
Todd Madison.
Go ahead, Mr. Madison.
All right, thanks. Yes, I'm still here. So Todd Madison again, OUSD parent, school board candidate. We've seen the learning continuity plan, but now I'd like to point out another path the district could take, which involves the waiver process. That should be added to the list of all the options we can do that Eric mentioned. The governor's order preventing in-person instruction has a clause for schools where parents and teachers feel in-person schooling could be provided in a way that's safe for kids and teachers. The district can request a waiver for that school, asking for approval for in-person instruction in grades K through 6. As we develop plans for in-person learning in ways that are safe for kids and teachers, we need to consider this. I would think it should be a priority consideration since we know younger kids have a much harder time with distance learning. The process is handled site by site. A school with sufficient space to do proper distancing could open for in-person learning, even if the rest of the district can't do that safely. In Oceanside, we know one hurdle to reopening is finding space to do proper distancing. The district's hybrid model shows that such distancing would require cutting class sizes in half. That may be difficult in some schools, but from a recent district facility study, we see a number of elementary schools that are already at 50% or lower capacity. With as many as 15% of parents indicating they prefer full-time distance learning, it's likely more than half of our elementary schools would be able to spread out their kids into unused space and accomplish the distancing needed. Laurel, Libby, North Terrace, Santa Margarita, and Stewart Mesa are all near or below 50% capacity, which means we could easily cut their class sizes in half with plenty of spaces to expand for distancing purposes. This would also accomplish something that's long been a goal of both teachers and parents, lower class sizes. In the last LCAP survey that asked that question, before I was no longer there to insist it be included, a whopping 66% of teachers indicated smaller classes was their highest priority for the district. It was also the highest priority for parents. The district and the board have completely ignored that every year, choosing to spend their money in other ways other than class size reduction. And as we saw in the LCP document, we're now at 34-1 in K through 8 and almost 40-1 in high school, class sizes that are by no means small, which is why I'm running for the board, because I think our teachers and our parents need someone on the board willing to stand up for what's important to them, as I've been doing for many years. Meanwhile, if you're a parent at any elementary school and would like to see a plan for safe return combined with the possibility of asking for a waiver to allow that, there's a group of parents that would like to hear from you. You can email parents@openrschools.org to get connected with them. That's parents@openrschools.org. And of course, anyone who thinks we need more representation on our board by someone with a long history of pushing the district to put kids first in their priorities is welcome to join me at toddforkids.com. That's Todd4kids.com, as well as Facebook as Todd for Kids as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. Next speaker.
Patricia Ramirez.
Go ahead, Patricia.
Okay, hello, can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening, President Blessing, members of the board, Dr. Vitale, OUSD staff, and to those of you tuning in virtually. My name's Patricia Ramirez, and I'm here tonight to speak as the Political Action Committee chairperson. Oops, I lost it. There we go. Of the Oceanside Teachers Association. As you know, we are in the midst of election season, and both Districts 2 and 5 have school board seats that will be on the ballot in November. Our Political Action Committee interviewed all of the current school board candidates for both districts to inform our decisions on our endorsements. After interviewing the candidates, the recommendations were presented to the ODA Site Rep Council for ratification. We are pleased to announce that the Oceanside Teachers Association will be endorsing Eleanor Evans for District 2 and Mike Blessing for District 5. Their years of experience in public service, combined with their commitment and insight, clearly makes them the most qualified candidates in their districts. We urge the constituents of District 5 to vote for Mike Blessing and in District 2 for Eleanor Evans. If you're not aware of your voting district, you can access the information on the OUSD website in the Board Elections tab under Board of Education. We wish Mike and Eleanor the best of luck in the upcoming election and look forward to continuing our work with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Next speaker.
Our last speaker, Jen Skellett.
I hear you there, Jen. Not yet.
She's in now. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, took me a minute. Had to wake up.
Good. We're here.
In the last
Thank you.
long time. I'm not. Good evening. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "We do not." Oh, someone just lost my thing. Hold on. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "We do not have to become heroes overnight. Just one step at a time, meeting each thing that comes up, seeing it not as dreadful as it appears, discovering that we have the strength to stare it down. We are living in the midst of a pandemic, all of us working without precedent to guide us. Situations like these call for collaboration, clarity, and timely communication. This is not a time for pointing fingers or shifting responsibility. It is a time for concerted action, with everyone in the district working together to achieve our ultimate goal: education in the lowest risk learning and working environment for our students, for our staff, and for our families. It is important to remember that while we are all in the same storm, we are not all in the same boat. We must have the flexibility to meet our students' needs. We cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach. Students at Fossat are experiencing a different reality than students at Stewart Mesa, Libby, King, or Surfside. We need to view our present conditions as an opportunity to explore and build upon the diversity within the greater Oceanside community. Social emotional learning needs must take precedence over traditional curriculum. Young people, just like the rest of us, are living through historic crisis, a global pandemic, a severe economic recession, and political and social unrest. Our task is to help our students make sense of these global changes and to help them maintain their physical and emotional health while figuring out their place in this new world. All the while, teaching reading, writing, math, and other subjects. It's a hugely daunting task, but I know our teachers are up to it. If we work together to support them, future educators will look back and say, "This was our finest hour." How we emerge on the other side of this pandemic will be determined by the decisions made by all parties now. We trust that you will make thoughtful decisions that are in the best interest of our students and staff, and you must trust the experience and expertise of teachers and support staff. Our families have placed their trust in their children's well-being with OUSD staff. Parents are rightly concerned that their children will be spending too many hours online every day. They want their children's minds creatively stimulated, not stifled. The way to do this is to involve students in the world around them, to help them investigate real-world issues, to examine evidence, and to write about the conclusions they form. I know that if teachers receive the same level of trust and support from our administration, great learning will happen. The phrases differentiation, growth mindset, and project-based learning have been ubiquitous over the past several years. Now is the time to make those real. Working together, staff, students, and families, OUSD can make this happen. On behalf of the Oceanside Teachers Association, thank you.
Thank you, Jen. And that concludes our speakers. Anne, is that right? Okay, thank you so much.